So to begin setting up the PMDG 737 flight management system, first of all we need to generate our position. So we hit the initial reference page as we are on currently. We need our reference airport and our gate, but we need to generate our current position. So we do this by pressing Shift 7 if you're using a keyboard. This window will then pop up. Then we need to generate our position. So we do this by setting our IRS mode selectors, each of them to the nav position. So we do that with the first one and do that with the second one. So as you can see, the little sign will then come up saying that they are beginning to align. So we then wait for them to generate our position. Whilst we are waiting for the IRS mode selectors to generate our current position, we can go ahead and start setting up the FMS. So we'll do this first of all with selecting our departure airport, which in this case is Bradley International Airport, Kilo Bravo Delta Lima. Select that as our reference airport. Now as you can see in the FMS, we now have the Enter IRS position. So this now tells us that the mode selectors have aligned. So we select the position of the airport we're at. This, we then click on it on the right hand button there, and we set the IRS position. As you can see, our displays and everything are all back online. So we're going to program our flight. So we're going to fly from Kilo Bravo Delta Lima, that's Bradley International Airport, and we'll fly to Providence. Kilo Papa Victor Charlie for the sake of this flight. We'll enter our call sign, just for simulation's sake, NOTRANS 28. And then we shall go to the departure and arrival. So for this flight we're going to depart runway 24 by the Bradley 2 departure. We'll activate that. Next we'll go along to our route page, and our routing is as follows: direct to Providence, Papa Victor Delta, then via the Victor 151 airway. You put your airways on the left hand side, waypoints on the right, and then to our final waypoint, Golf Alpha India Lima Sierra 2 Gales. So we will execute that. So that is the flight plan portion selected. Next we'll select our arrival, which will be ILS runway 07 at Providence. We'll execute that. Now as you can see on the navigation display we have a route generated. So we can see that here on the screen. So our waypoint there, first one to Providence, the departure that we've selected is basically a straight out departure, runway 24. So after departure we would depart the runway on a heading of 238 degrees before routing towards Providence. But that is not us finished at all. So first of all, if we go to our initial reference page, we need to fill all of this in. We need our gross weight, our planned fuel, cruising altitude, reserves, cost index, transition, cruise wind, and so on. So where do we set this all up? Well, we do so by clicking on the menu button, go to FS Actions, where we can select our fuel. So for this flight, let's say we'll use 6 tons of fuel. 6,000 kilos, so that's entered into there. Now if we go return, payload, passengers, let's say we'll take 135 passengers. As you can see, that gives us a gross weight of 60.3 tonnes or a zero fuel weight of 54.3 tonnes. Now, for the sake of programming the FMS, we want to take gross weight, which is 60.3 tonnes. So bear that in mind. We input 60.3 when we click on the initial reference page. Back to this part, 60.3 gross weight. That gives us a zero fuel weight of 54.2, as it showed us in our payload. Trip fuel, total planned fuel 6 tonnes. Got 1 tonne of reserve fuel, and we have a cost index of 15. Now the cost index basically will govern the amount of fuel that the aircraft is burning. It basically balances the performance with how fast you climb, how fast you cruise, and so on. So for this flight we'll select a cost index of 15. Our flight level, we'll select flight level 140 for this flight. The wind en route is going to be 330 at 25 knots. Select that, and then we'll hit the execute button, and that is it all programmed for that page. Next we go to the N1 limit. We don't need to change anything here, everything is all fine. Next we click on the takeoff page. We'll be using flaps 5, so 5 degrees of flaps. That estimates that we'll use 99.7% thrust. So for our centre of gravity, we double click that and it gives us 17.4% with the trim at 5.55 degrees. We would want to ensure that our trim here was set to 5.55 degrees. Next, runway remaining. We only need 900 feet of runway remaining if we had to abort the takeoff. Next, we'll click next page, and the surface wind currently 240 degrees at 6 knots. Runway condition is dry. V1 speed 126, V rotate 131, and V2 is 143. So that is the FMS all set up really. If we go to our route page, legs, as you can see, it is all set up nicely. Program 126 miles to Providence, and estimated 4.9 tonnes of fuel when we land there. As I say, those are the basics of setting up the PMDG 737. You can also save yourself a lot of time when programming larger routes, for instance on long haul flights, by using a company route, which you can export to your flight plans page in the route folder of your PMDG installation. You can then select that flight plan by going to the route part of your FMC and selecting company route, co-route. Either input the route you want, for instance if I was going to Newcastle to Dublin, I could select that in there and I can activate that, and then that route automatically appears in the FMC without me doing anything. On the other hand, if I'm unsure which route I want to select, I can click the routes page and select one of the ones that are available, or the ones that I've selected and loaded into the flight plan section. As I say, there are many ways, but overall that is the basics of programming a PMDG FMC. Once again folks, I hope this tutorial does help you if you're wondering how to set up the PMDG 737. Subscribe for more, hit the like button, and please do share. Once again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.